Hello, my YouTube friends. Thanks for joining in tonight. Man, if you haven't hit that subscribe button right down there and slam that bell, please do now because we got a lot of great things going on. Oh my gosh, man. Thank you so much for joining in tonight. Tonight. Thank you so much for joining in tonight. Tonight, I want to talk about music in motion, in the mix. Breathe. What do I mean by breathe? What do I mean by music in motion? What do I mean by in the mix? You might be asking yourself, what the heck is he talking about? Man, I'll tell you what I'm talking about, man. Do you remember when you were in a band? You remember if you were in a band, how everyone was in key with one another? Everyone was really conscientious of the other person's volume level. And there were certain, even though you guys were all conscientious of the other person and didn't want to be blaring over the other guy, you wanted a good balance in the band, right? And each of you wanted to hear everyone as they were playing. Um, to have a nice blend and a nice mix on stage, right? But then there were certain parts in the song, man, where y'all would just really start. Either the guitar player would kick in his lead, or the drummer just might get excited and really just start hammering that snare or whatever. But those dynamics in the song, in your songs, created depth and emotion and came across to the audience as all these dynamics and this feeling of being in a live situation where there was just all this energy. That's what I'm getting at. All this energy and emotion and effects and depth to your dynamics in the songs. And whenever you're recording or you're multi-track recording and you're doing it yourself, or whether you lay down a click track first, put down a guitar track, and you come in, you start layering all these different instruments, it's hard to get those dynamics as a real band playing together in unison. And so what you want to do, or what the whole purpose is to try to create that emotion, those dynamics in your mixes, man. You want to get things coming in, coming out, you know, moving. You want your music to be moving, breathing, breathing with dynamics. Not so much that it's disturbing to where, you have something come in and it's like, oh my gosh, that needs to come down, nothing like that. I'm talking about once you have a nice balanced mix across the board and everything really, really sounds good. I'm talking about then going back in all these small little increments throughout each instrument, whether it's the guitar or the vocals or whatever, doing some automation, self automation on certain parts, certain licks that you want to emphasize in. And I'm talking very minute. I'm not talking, 2, 3 dB. I'm talking like point 0.3 dB or whatever. I'm talking about these small little graduation rises and falls in the instrument, and then doing that with each instrument. And what you're doing is giving space for the other one to breathe and to have the dynamics in the song without adding any artifacts or trying to get you there and glue the tracks together with just compressors. Wow. Wow, what a breakthrough. What a breakthrough, man. I want to tell you something. I actually had an album, and I just want to stomp myself in the foot, man, for somehow this album disappeared, but it did disappear. And I don't know who actually put it out because it's been so long ago. But this guy, the name of the album was called Music in Motion. And perhaps maybe there's somebody out there, one of you guys that know how to find it or research it and get it. But when I went to look for it and do the research to try to find it, I couldn't find it. And but man, it taught me so much about. I remember the first time I put this album on, and that was the title, "Music in Motion." And I started listening to it through my headphones, and you can actually hear all this depth and things moving around in the stereo field. Now, keep in mind, this was done in the late 50s or early 60s, okay? This was done a long time before all those Zeppelin albums came out where things are moving. And I wonder who actually first came up with the idea of music needs to breathe, needs to be in motion, things need to come in and out, swells and whatnot to actually create a vibe, to create a feeling of being there, and not just where everything's just straight across the board, you know? And so, anyway, I was listening to this album for the first time and I was just blown away. I just couldn't believe how great it sounded and how things were moving in the stereo field and creating all this depth and different. I'm sure there was different reverbs or whatnot or chambers on this album, but it just sounded so beautiful and really kind of got my mind stirring as to how they were actually doing that, how they were actually getting these instruments to have their own place in the stereo mix as well as their own depth and size. And so all these things kept crossing my mind. I always knew I always wanted to get there in my mix, but just didn't know how to go about to do it. But that sound, man, was in my head for a long, long time, and I listened to this album for several days and several hours, man, to where I just got it in my head and tried to figure out where placement and things were coming in, kind of like an orchestra, you know, when you hear an orchestra and you go see a live symphony and you're sitting in there and the conductor's up there and he's doing this, sorry y'all, and he's telling this group over here to, okay, you know, I want to feel something, I want some dynamics out of y'all get it going on. And he's actually the puppet master, you know, he's actually getting he's actually playing what you guys, me and you, need to play whenever we're doing a mix. We need to be the puppet master. We need to actually move those faders in automation and actually create those dynamics without any artifacts. Being that we're not mixing a band and we're doing single tracks, we need to pay close attention to that. And it's just subtle, subtle, subtle movements, guys. It's no drastic jumps in decibels or anything, or it will be too loud and it's just sound out of place and kind of be annoying actually. But you want to stay away from that. It's just the subtle movements, and then always drop back about 10% when you're doing the automation. That way, it's just a rule of thumb to do so, and then that way, because when you're doing the automation and you want things to stick out, and you're automating the guitar, the acoustic guitar, whether it's articulation or whatever in the mix, and the guitarist is doing this articulation with arpeggios or whatever. And let's just say you want that to stand out in the mix. Sometimes when you're riding that fader or whatever in real time to create certain elements in that guitar, riding the mix, you can kind of get excited. So, it's a good idea to drop back about 10% on that and then do the listening again and then actually find out where you want to be at the end of the song. But also, like from verse to chorus, you might want to dB up, say a decibel or two, 1 dB between the verses and the chorus. That graduation where it goes into the chorus, and actually adds a springboard to the chorus to kind of hit you right in the chest. So those are some tricks that a lot of engineers have been doing for years. It took me a while to actually figure out a lot of it. A lot of it was just I could hear it, but I didn't understand how to get to it. And a lot of it had to do with, well, is it a real band playing? Is it a whole band or is this multi-track thing going on? So if you're laying down single tracks and you're a single artist, this might be something you want to keep in mind to keep that music in motion, keep things coming in and coming up and backing off, and letting this person have it for a second or two. It might be a snare, it might be a kick drum that you want to accentuate a little bit in the chorus section. You maybe want a little bit more kick in a certain on the one beat, on the downbeat, or maybe you want the vocals at the end of each line of the verse or a vocal. Maybe ramp that up just a little bit because a lot of times a vocalist he'll fall off. So what you're doing is you're actually taking that last word or whatever and ramping it up just a little bit to where it feels like the artist is a really really strong singer. And so by doing this, that pushes the vocal line forward in the mix, and it always sounds strong instead of him dying off. And so there's a lot of little tricks that's done by that. It's just paying attention to that music being in motion at all the time. And then also, you might want to get to the end of the mix. And then once you have everything out, laid out in front of you, actually take your master track and do your DBing from your verses to your chorus. And that's just an easy way to do it rather than to try to do it on each individual instrument or cut the whole thing and then ramp that up. So that was something that might be good for you guys to keep in mind is that music has to stay in motion. It has to breathe in and out because that's what music's really all about. Whenever you go see a live band, that's why so many people love going to live concerts, man. It's not the fact that they can sit there and just look at the artist playing up there on the stage, but they actually can feel the energy and they can feel the musicians playing off of one another. And when they're playing off of one another, they're creating their own dynamics within the song. And a good engineer behind the board, he senses this and knows this, and a lot of times he just goes along with it. He might make some subtle changes here and there from song to song as far as that goes, but pretty much he lets that ride unless the guys up on stage create their own dynamics with them playing with one another. And a good band knows how to do that. A good band feeds off each other, whether it's the bass player and the kick drum. I mean the bass player and the drum player, the drummer. They're constantly feeding off each other, man. They're constantly feeding off the groove and whatnot because they are the foundation. They are the cement of the band, and so they're constantly locked in more so than the singer. The singer can kind of get up there and dance around and do whatever he wants to do, but your bass player and your drummer really have to be locked in as brothers, man. And what's so funny about those two, the bass player and the drummer, having to be locked in to make a solid sounding band, is that the kick drum and the bass player are always constantly fighting for the same frequencies. So I think that's kind of humorous to think that they need to be brothers, but at the same time they're fighting for the same space in a mix. But keep that in mind, you guys, man. Music needs to breathe. It needs to come in and out. It needs to be in motion at all times. Just listen to some of those old Led Zeppelin albums, for example. Man, Eddie Kramer, when you listen to some of the work that he's done, it's just phenomenal, man. I mean, it's like, golly, things are swelling in and out. Things are panning far left and right. Um, I mean, just delays, all these different delays that create depth. But by these things, by the mix constantly staying in motion, by writing these faders and real time automation, like I said, it creates all this depth to the song and energy as if the band is playing live. And that's what you want to do whenever you're listening to your mix back. You want it to feel like it was a live performance and things are coming in and moving out and up and over here. Horns are coming in up here. Things are moving around in that mix, man. And the good mixes are not just about a good balance. That's real important to have a real good balance to where everything has its own space and frequency. When we're talking frequencies, everything needs its own space. But beyond just frequency and giving each instrument its own space, we're talking about things that are moving around, things that are panning and breathing, right? And that's what we really want to be a good engineer, to be a good mixer, to be a good listener. And it takes some time and it takes some practice with your automation to actually get those to get it just right. And you might have to do it. Always remember to cut back about 10% or a couple percentage, you know, and then after the fact, go back and listen to it, you know, and listen to the AB the first time before you did any self automation. Listen to the master track of that with just a nice blend, okay, where everything's nice and balanced, and then listen to the master after you've finalized it as to all the little self automations and small little minute increments on the different instruments coming in and out to create this depth and to create movement with inside the mix, man. Wow. It really makes a ton of difference. In fact, there's other videos you guys can go out there and look and check out some other engineers talking about automation and real time automation in the mix and how it's going to help you guys out on all your mixes, man. But I find that really interesting that I found that album and the name of it was called Music in Motion. And this album came out before Eddie Kramer was actually doing Led Zeppelin's mixes. And so I'm wondering who learned from who, you know? Did Eddie actually listen to that album too and learn a few little tricks from it? I don't know. It'd be interesting to find out. It'd be interesting to know where Eddie Kramer got his ideas on music being in motion and breathing, not just using compressors to do that, but actually riding those faders, you know. Now I know a long time ago, like in the 50s and way back when, um, the engineer was constantly riding the faders, especially the vocalist, riding those faders for the vocalist so that, because they didn't have compressors back then. So, way back in the day, they had to ride those faders. But I find it real interesting that in the final mix that we can use self automation and we can draw in those curves, those little bitty curves, and use it, man. Start using your automation. Start using your self automation and get better with that automation because whether it's delays coming in on another track, whether it's you riding the fader at the end of each phrase of the vocalist, or whether it's you riding the faders of the articulation of the guitar player, whether he's doing some arpeggios and doing some articulation with his guitar. Maybe you want that to be some ear candy, and maybe you want that to be brought up just a smidget here and there within the mix to where you possibly hear it once and then you hear it again in the middle of the song, then maybe you hear it at the end of the song. Um, just little things like that, man, it's going to help you become a better engineer, a better listener, and a better mixer, man. So use that automation to your advantage. Don't be scared of it. Lay down some tracks, get a good balance of your song first. You know, um, you might want to render that and then actually do another go around at it, and then do it with you doing automation on the instruments in and out a little bit, just small little up uh, ramps here and there throughout the song. And that's really, 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 really going to create you to be a better listener, a better engineer, and create some better mixes all the way around. Man, I gotta get in. I gotta start working with some other people, man. I gotta get in the studio. I want to, whether it's with my stuff or someone who's just inspired and just as I am about living each day and loving every moment of it and just wanting to be in the studio and record, man. I just And it gets me so excited to be able to share these ideas with you guys, especially some of you that are just starting out that don't know anything what automation really is. But you can do a lot with automation, and it's really going to help your songs breathe. It's going to bring life to the tracks. It's also going to make it seem like it's just not multi-track recording. It's going to sound like more like a band playing when you have these instruments coming in and out and giving some energy and giving some dynamics to the song, real dynamics, without smashing and compressing the life out of all your tracks, because you can certainly compress the dynamics out of your tracks to where it's lifeless, and that's what you don't want to do. So the more you can do with riding the faders, and the more you can do with real time automation, and gluing those tracks together and balance and all that other stuff, the more you're naturally going to glue those tracks together. And it's going to be so much easier in the end when you actually put some compressors and limiters and whatnot on the master to glue everything together. And so, and it may take just a little bit of compression to do so. Hey, 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 send me a time. Okay, well, go ahead. Go ahead, my brother. Give me a call, Dennis. Riva Dinera. I'm waiting for you. Give me a call and join in, man. Join in. I want to hear your thoughts on music in motion, brother. I want to hear it. But yeah, music in motion is so important. God, I don't know how to stress on that. I tried to do that years ago. I tried to create all these dynamics with compressors and compression time and ratios and whatnot, tempos and all that by creating pumping and all this other kind of stuff. It really takes a lot of work to get that down. But with self automation now, it's kind of senseless not to use that as to our benefit these days. And so, we really, really need to try to work on that. And that's going to help us be a better engineer when we do so. Uh, I know I was watching some videos the other night, man, that Dennis had sent me on my phone. And golly, man, they're just doing some great stuff in the studios these days, man, with all these different mic placements and all these, riding the faders. And it's really all about riding the faders. I'm telling you, there's a lot to that. And it's just these small increments, y'all. It's not these big steps that are going to get you there or create a great mix. It's all these little bitty steps that you take throughout the mix that's going to go all in the pot together. And then by the time, the soup's done, you're going to just have, it's just going to sound great. It's going to sound really, really good. Hey, hey, hey. Dennis, what's going on, man?
Doing tonight.
Man, we're doing great.
Nice.
We're doing great. Hey, man, I was talking about music in motion. I mentioned to you the other night about that, how
Mhm.
I found that
Yeah, we're
album.
talking about dynamics and stuff. Yeah.
Oh my
Yeah, I
gosh,
wanted
man.
to touch in on that because it's something that's very subtle and it's very important at the same time.
Hmm.
Not always. It really does depend on who you're working with, or if normally if it's a real professional band, when guys that have been doing it for a long time and they know how to really play the music,
Hmm.
you most don't really have to worry too much about that. However, um, even in situations when everyone does have that experience and imparts dynamics to the music, it makes a piece really move in terms of the dynamic content within it. Um, Part of the process of making it really come into being a production that sounds very polished is that ability to give a little more dynamics than are in there as start off. It's
Hmm.
more like a touch up of dynamics. And yeah, like you say, sometimes it's as much as using a compressor to make something breathe a little better. But sometimes it's as much as writing a fader on something. And most often it's done to vocals, as we all know. But I know and I've worked with people that do automation on everything.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
that's where, signature sounds are built. People that take the time to put all that work behind doing that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And that said, it's much easier to do these days because, now at least now we're all working and computers and things like that. You have the ability to either draw that automation, which is kind of difficult to make sound decent, but also the fact that you can get yourself controllers that allow you to draw that automation in the way that you would on a radio console.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
then it just becomes a matter of being able to recognize when to add, sort of thing.
Right.
Either you automate or either you compress.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The compressor can only do so much, but in terms of adding a humanity to the sounds,
Mm-hmm.
it's never, you can never beat a human. And so people are probably wondering what would be a good example of something that needs dynamics in that fashion. And I would start with, most people are working out of their home. They're using software instruments and that sort of thing. And so it's, you have to kind of take those instruments out of the mold that they're in, so to speak, and make them part of whatever production you're trying to use.
Mm-hmm.
If not, you end up with what's known as a static mix.
Right.
You have all your elements just sitting there. They sound good. Your reverbs, everything is there. You go from beginning to end of the song, and you think you might be satisfied. No, it sounds cool. Yeah, that gets you to a certain level.
Right.
From then on, it's really what separates, like I say, the men from the children.
Yeah.
Is knowing where to go in and surgically add these dynamics.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Wow.
And
Now,
it
I
ends
think
as easily as doing it with the vocals, but then you also have to basically do the same thing with all the other instruments.
Mm-hmm.
When one goes up, the other one comes down. In the verse, let's say you want your lead vocal to be featured in one manner, and maybe the second echo on it is not as prominent, but then during the chorus, that whole thing changes. So the whole picture of what's happening with the vocals changes.
Mm-hmm.
It's all, relative to how you're producing your music. But if you get the concept of it, when you start experimenting with it, your music takes a whole new
dimension. Yeah.
a whole new dimension and starts really popping at you.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not, it doesn't sound static. It's not just two-dimensional.
Right.
Things start moving around you, and things that are panned really start to feel like they're really panned, and they're moving around your image, and you start seeing how, spending the extra time to work on those things really is worthwhile.
Yeah. You know what? I tell you what. You can really hear it in Eddie Kramer's stuff, can't you?
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Well, he's I would say one of the people that started doing, heavy automation on mixes. But in those days, there wasn't any automation that you could record, so it had to be done live.
Mm-hmm.
So you had to first find somebody that was, sober in those days. It was tough.
Mm-hmm.
Sober enough to do, automation moves in real time.
Right.
That's literally what it had. And I don't know, I can't corroborate, but there was apparently a story out there saying that the first, basically the first mixes of Axe's Bold as Love, Jimmy had left with at the end of the night. And he left him in the cab.
Mm.
And so he frantically got a hold of Eddie in the middle of the night, and Eddie had to go back and redo all that stuff again in the middle of the night. And he says he can't remember because they were so tired, but he in his opinion, he thinks that first reel was really, really much better than what came out.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Just because they couldn't replicate the automation.
Mm-hmm.
What they did, they had to be, okay, you, Jimmy, you're going to do the panning over here at the end of the second verse, and you go, you move the left pan this far, and then ride the volume down so it sounds like it's going left or right.
Right. Wow.
And then you grab the other fader and you make your bass sound like a boom. I don't know, whatever. You think of something to do.
Right. Wow.
So those things you couldn't record, and that's what automation lets you do, is making those things repeatable.
And isn't it great that you and I get to play with that, man? It's like, oh man.
And believe me, it's much easier said than done. It takes a long time. For the most part, on the average, from the really good projects that I've worked on, automation generally is almost imperceptible if you're not really paying attention. Granted, some instruments need a real bump to be perceived, and sometimes it's a token item on a mix that isn't necessarily there all the time. But sometimes it's just really a matter of knowing when to move things in, so that there's no empty spaces in your mix.
Well,
that's what you really don't want, and you don't want any time that isn't taken by something being musical within the song. So everything has to kind of be roughly at the same level. If the guy's singing and he quits for a second to go, and there's some kind of guitar line going, then that guitar line needs to be right up there talking or answering to the vocal. Same with any other instrument, the pianos and the orchestra, all that stuff need to kind of play around with each other, so the whole what's it called, the arrangement works.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
But also, I guess, it comes down to arrangement. If you have someone that arranges every instrument to play the same thing at every beat, it's not going to sound great. So obviously, an arrangement that works with with everything, it lends itself to better music. But
isn't it nice that with the self automation, man, if it ain't right, just redo it. You just do it until you get it right. Wow. Oh man, that makes it really nice. It's not like, oh God, you got to rely on somebody else to push the fader up and down next to you, right?
Well, ideally, you want to make as much as you can, get musicians that can do that.
Right.
And hopefully get them playing together. That's the best way to assure that there will be some kind of natural dynamics. There's people that can play with each other and know when to emphasize something or when to not do it. People that know the material and can play it properly, and all you have to do is just put the mics in the right spot.
Wow, man, that is such a neat thing, man. I appreciate that video you showed me that you sent to me last night. Wow.
Oh yeah, I mean, that stuff is blowing my mind. Not just the gear, but again, that guy was wow. I didn't expect that music to that level by him.
I know. Is that insane or what?
Is very different from even from Foo Fighters. You know what I mean?
I know. I never would.
In fact, I told a buddy of mine from a band that I worked with from Panama. It reminds me of their band, but in English.
Okay. Wow.
Which was interesting, yeah.
So, did you notice the microphone he was singing in the mixing room with? Was that a dynamic, or was that some type of ribbon?
That must have been a dynamic, but I couldn't tell you what it was. It didn't look like an Electro Voice.
Nope.
It looked like some kind of cheaper, those random 60s brands,
Exactly. I couldn't tell what it was.
Nothing too fancy. It looked like it had a cable attached to it, permanently.
Wow. But hey, man, it sounded good though, right?
Yeah, I mean, she's known for being able to pull really neat sounds out of just about anything. I don't know. She was involved in making some of the earlier Tool records.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
She's big in the West Coast, and people know her really well because of all that.
Yeah, man, she's pretty far out. She sounds really hip, doesn't she? I mean,
Yeah.
Wow. Did you see the way she routed everything on the board? That was nice, where she had her standard mics on one side, then she had all those vintage cool ones on the right side,
all
and then
the funky ones on the outside, and then monitoring from the center.
Wow, man,
and there was nothing else in between. The I/O was all handled by the other unit.
Golly, that I was just like the bomb, isn't it, man?
Mm-hmm. Now, it
Wow.
sounded obviously at the end like they have some kind of effects going on, and they don't say how they handle the effects internally in that place, but I'm sure it's just in whatever their traditional manner is.
Mm-hmm.
But still, any, like for instance, if I bought that thing,
Mm-hmm.
I could run all my gear in and out of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there was what 64
All
channel.
of it. All my processing, all my mic inputs, all my mic outputs, everything could be discrete, and I would still probably have extra I/O.
Mm-hmm. It's really hard to believe they put that all in a 2-rack space.
Mm-hmm.
That's insane. They did that, Dennis.
And when you see the other video that I sent you, that guy goes a little bit more in depth into how to use it and how it works, which is similar to the concept that the UA people do use with the background mixer
Mm-hmm.
type of thing and their own effects. But these have, I guess, really good quality too.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
RME also uses their own proprietary background mixer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but man, wasn't that nice, man? I mean, actually, for what the amount that you put into it, what you get out of is just insane. Wow.
It's tremendous, and then all the processing that happens for all those effects that you can have in real time for every track is handled by the box.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't take any processing power from your computer.
Did you see? Well, you did see because you sent me, but there was a part in the video where all the guys were in there in the mixing room, and they were like, "Wow, I've never heard drums sound so good in my life." And that was the last thing they said before they walked out. They said, "I've never heard drums sound," and she was like, "All right,
Yeah, that's what you want to hear."
Man, and didn't they sound great?
Yeah. Well, that's actually a really decent studio in Los Angeles.
What studio was that?
That was East West.
Okay. Is that where she typically?
It's been there under different names, since like the 40s. It used to be a film studio type of thing.
Yeah.
It looks pretty cool from the outside.
Yeah, is that where
it shows it? It shows it, I think, right at the beginning of that video.
Okay.
From the outside.
I must have missed that part or looked down or something.
But you can find our website, the East West Studios in Los Angeles.
Okay. Wow, man. Amazing. You know what she said? I want one of these at my house. Her studio didn't look bad at all either, though, did it?
No, that's her new studio. Her old place was bigger. It was a theater up in some town in the middle of Oregon somewhere.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, actually not in the middle of nowhere. It was in the middle of nowhere, but it's Ashland, Oregon, where she was before. I think she's not too far from there right now either. So.
Okay. Wow.
But it was an old school theater, and she took a bunch of rows of chairs out and turned it into a studio.
Really?
Yeah, it sold she sold it like 2 or 3 years ago.
I wonder why she sold it, man. Just to do something different?
It costs a little bit to run a studio in the mountains of Oregon.
Right. I bet.
She had projects and stuff, but over the years, the big budgets just kind of went out. A lot of people don't see the value in recording in a studio anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw it happen to a lot of that type of studios around here too. Mm-hmm. And I worked at 2 or 3 of them, and they all packed and had to close.
Wow. You heard about the mastering part in Capitol shut down, huh?
Yeah, that's kind of alarming, but I don't know what it really means, but it's definitely alarming because I knew some of the people working there.
Wow. Yeah, they shut
those are the type of people that you don't think ever would be out of a job.
Exactly, man. I mean, the mastering suite part of in Capitol closing the doors, man. Man, oh man. So who are they going to get all their mastering from? Just outside people, or I mean, I guess there's a lot of good ones, but
who knows? I mean, if there's nothing, if they're not keeping up with whatever was booked, I don't know what's happening.
Right. Right. Wow. When I read that, I was like, "Are you kidding me?" Wow, man. Well, there's just, people do want to record, people do want to get their stuff mastered.
Hmm.
So I mean, as long as there's music, man, as long as there's people, there's gonna be music. you know.
Oh yeah, that's not gonna stop. It's just gonna be, just the way that it gets made and performed and enjoyed. That's gonna, unfortunately, change a little bit for a while.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, in terms of recording, I mean, most facilities are still working. Everyone has to conform with whatever their state's um, rules are for assembly and studios, at least, because I think there's a whole different set of rules regulating that. You know, then varies from state to state.
Oh
But
wow.
from what I've seen, most studios are pretty much complying in terms of keeping people separated and and cleaning their gear and from session to session and all that.
Mm-hmm.
So at least out here, the bigger, at least the studios that are still in business are still chugging along.
Doing fine. They seem to be doing fine.
Well, I wouldn't say fine because they're not booking as much, but whatever they are booking, it's being done.
Yeah. Right.
I know the owners of some of the bigger studios that are left in this area,
Mm-hmm.
and everyone's still concerned, but they're starting to book more stuff. It's mostly if you don't have sessions coming in, you're doing remote mixing and a lot of stuff, broadcast and advertising, that sort of thing. You find bread and butter stuff to keep you going.
Right.
I'm lucky that I own a lot of my gear. I don't owe anything for any gear. But a lot of these other bigger studios, they're always paying large amounts of money that they have to keep up with payments.
Right. Wow.
You know.
Wow. Yeah. Having that overhead kill you, man.
Yeah. That said, right now, if you have the money to open a place, it's the right time.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, to start thinking about it, because lots of places are going under and lots of great gear is coming to market for next to nothing.
Right. And hey, space too. I mean,
Lots of space.
mm-hmm. A lot of people are downsizing or whatnot, or moving out or
Mm-hmm.
whatnot. So that's going to be available too.
Yeah, lots of places just being liquidated.
Wow, wow, wow. But you know what? You and I were hitting on the other night. A good sounding room. Doesn't that sound just beautiful whenever you're in a good room?
Mm-hmm.
Man, worlds of difference, rather than trying to
Oh, yeah.
create it, it's already
Well, something
there.
that's purposely built. It's ideal if you find a place that sounds really good from the get go.
Mm-hmm.
But if you can afford somebody to help you pinpointing exactly what you're looking for, because in essence, a studio is a lab,
Right.
and if you have the tools to make things properly, and that one of them is not just your equipment, but the room itself. You make a room that sounds many different ways so that it can do that, and you have yourself, you maximize the value, even your gear, even more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, man. I'm gonna watch that other video you sent me tonight, man.
It's a little more tedious in terms of because it's got more technical stuff, but he shows you pretty much basically how he runs the Galaxy, and then he does a latency test. Sorry,
Okay.
and basically the latency for that thing with I think he had like 6 different effects on top of each other. It was like point 3 milliseconds or something like that, which is ridiculous.
Couldn't even notice it.
Really
Yeah.
low.
Wow.
Nobody would be able to hear that.
Wow. 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 So when did they come out with the Galaxy?
That's this year's new. Right now NAM is happening, so that's one of the things I came up with this year.
Okay. Wow. Beautiful piece, man. Beautiful
Mm-hmm.
piece. And how open and beautiful it sounded. Are you
Oh,
kidding
you
me?
notice as soon as that video starts, you're like, wow, let me keep making it louder because it sounds good.
I know.
Even on YouTube, you're like, okay, that's different.
I know, right?
I've went back and listened to it. In fact, it's paused right now. I'm listening to that song.
Oh wow. Yeah, man. So I had on my headphones, man, and I was just enjoying the heck out of that song on my headphones, man. Gosh. I mean, those drums are hitting. Everything's just perfect, man. I mean,
Hmm.
it really has its own vibe to it. You know? Did you
Oh
notice
yeah.
that? Yeah.
Well, that's what what she wanted to get for that artist.
Mm-hmm. Now,
His
is that
own identity.
did he write all that? Did he write all the music to that, or do
I
you
mean,
know?
I'm not sure, but it sounds like it's his project, so I'm gonna guess that since he pays the checks, I'm gonna get
I would think so too.
yeah. It's called the Taylor Hawkins project,
Right. You don't
and
think
then I
any?
said,
Yeah.
well, I looked at. I mean, he's got a his artist page on Spotify, but I imagine this is a new song. But he's got one more record before this one. I
Mm.
haven't heard it yet, but I'm sure it's. I guess imagine this similar to this.
I wonder if Sylvia did it, if she actually did the mixing on it, or somebody else did it.
Who knows? I mean, I'm sure that could be. You can probably find that out in all music
Well,
the credits.
he he did he looked pretty happy with what the end result, didn't he?
Oh yeah,
Yeah, he was real happy,
I'd
man.
be. I mean, that sounds like very killer.
It did.
Hmm.
Wow, man. So that was just one tune, right? He's got a bunch more. Is he going to cut this as an album, or is it just?
I wouldn't know. I hope she does more than that.
I do too, and I hope she does it. I hope she does
Yeah,
it.
well, hopefully that still that doesn't go away where they'll keep one person doing the tracking, and it ultimately makes it really much more difficult
Mm,
at the end of a project if everything's done by a bunch of different people.
right, right.
That's why nobody makes any music on the those big rap projects. There's like 50 producers and 75 engineers, and everybody wrote something, and
Everybody,
everyone ends up with $1.
right. By the time they cut the pie, there's crumbs.
Yeah,
Wow,
exactly.
wow, wow, wow. Yeah, and it really didn't have to be that way, does it? I mean,
No.
I don't how does that work out, by the way, Dennis, when you got so many chiefs in the fire, running behind everything? And how does that work out, man? I mean, when you got so many
I
people
mean,
involved.
we did one record that had that many people in it, and that was some kind of benefit for AIDS, and this song was "What's Going On," but
Okay.
it was sung by like Bono and Alicia Keys and all these different people, singing parts of the verses and the um and the choruses and stuff.
Hmm.
And it was fine, and everybody sang the male really great. But the fact that all those vocals were done in different places was very difficult.
Hmm.
Because when you're trying to mix it, all the air has to sound the same. So if you're going from, you know, one song goes to the next song, I mean, sorry, the one artist would sing half the verse, and the next artist would sing the rest of the verse, and then you have another artist singing the next part of that. So it was, if you didn't process them carefully, it sounded really funny.
Right. Wow. So it was pretty
So
difficult.
that
I mean,
ended up being a ton of people being involved and sending emails about what they liked and whatnot. But the funny thing is that whole album was, the benefit of that album was the same song mixed by different people.
wow.
And in that instance, for some reason, Mick was, I guess, like the higher paid person that they found to mix that. And so when people were calling us to tell us what to do, we weren't answering. It was great because the first couple of days, it was like people asking the dumbest stuff.
Stuff. Yeah.
And, he was like, no, this is enough. None of these people are even here.
Right.
So, you know.
So
So
he had to take the
yeah,
bull by the
he
horns.
worked with one producer, and that was it. We ignored everybody else calling in, and I
Perfect.
think they have it on Spotify.
Oh
I
wow.
know that was a CD that you could buy. Hold on, let me see if they.
Hmm. What year was that? Do you remember what year that was?
This was like maybe in 2002, 2003.
Okay.
The song was "What's Going On." Let me see if I find the actual name of it.
When you say that, I don't know. Was that sang by another artist before they?
Oh, "What's Going On" is the famous R&B song.
Yeah. Okay.
What's up, buddy? Oh, look, they do have it. Yeah, the album is called "What's Going On," and it's the artist is Artists Against AIDS Worldwide. It's from 2001. I guess I was a little later than I thought.
Okay.
That was my first like real record assist.
Oh wow.
Yeah, that was my first like album credit, like a real record credit.
Yeah.
Assisting this guy, which was cool. You see all the people in it. It was Christina Aguilera, Backstreet Boys, Mary J. Blige, Bono, Destiny's Child, Jermaine Dupri. This other thing I can't. Oh, Fred Durst. He was still, a thing. Eve, Pharrell, all these other people. Nelly Furtado. It was like 30 people singing in this song. So it's okay when you have 2-3 people singing, but then you add every other famous person that was out there in pop music. And it has to become a little bit more you have to be a little bit more careful of doing all the stuff, all the mixing.
Right.
So here, let me find and send you a link for this record.
Yeah, man.
As you can see, it's the same song and it's mixed by a bunch of different people.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Y'all had to do that. Y'all had to just put everybody's name. I guess you do. You have to put everybody's name.
We didn't have to put anybody's name on it. I mean, somebody else did. We just mixed the song they sent us.
Right.
Artists.
Yeah, send me that link. You care if I put that link down there in my description?
It's a commercial release.
So other people can click on it and check it out and see what you were involved in. Awesome.
Yeah, you can hear all the different mixes.
Awesome. Yeah, that's really cool, man.
What the Oxford sounds like.
Yeah.
And I was mixing the Oxford. I'm sure all the other ones were not.
Oh wow. I bet you missed that puppy, man.
Sure do, man. That thing had something on it of its own. And that's digital and all, but it had its own character.
Yeah. Wow, man. And they don't even make them anymore. Can't find them, huh?
No, that Sony killed that project really fast. Not really fast. Just the times were just bad. Sony wasn't the same company. It was changing, and they started cutting the fat.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't sell that many of them. That wasn't cheap.
Right.
And it wasn't for everyone. You really needed to know what you were doing.
Where did that board end up going? Where did y'all end up giving that to?
We donated it to the Peabody Institute, which is the audio school at Johns Hopkins University down in Maryland.
Wow.
Yeah, they still have it. They don't. In those days, they had another one of their own in their B room. They were still using it to teach. So they still used our console to teach for, I think, 2 or 3 years once we gave it to them, which was really cool.
Mm-hmm.
But I think now it's retired. They have a big warehouse where they have all the equipment, but they have it for what it's for. They got our consoles as parts to keep theirs running for a few more years.
Oh,
which
wow.
Is what the exchange is for.
Wow. So I guess there's still technicians that can go out there and work on all that, do what needs to be done, or?
Well, they had one for a few years, so they knew how to deal with it.
Okay.
So aside from, you had to know how to run it. It had its own I/O racks and had its own Unix computer that ran it. Basically, so it looked like a Windows computer,
mm-hmm.
but to say when it was off, you had to first start that computer, and then you would switch on the power on the say like the console itself, which is really a controller,
Mm-hmm.
and the power on the racks, and then so all that stuff starts booting up on its own, and then you see the prompt on the computer, and then you have it start up and boot up the software on the on the controller, and then you would see it start booting up, and then parts of the console start their own sequence to boot all the meters and everything, and all that took maybe about 10 minutes or so.
Wow.
For everything to be where you were ready to go, and then you would start turning on all the outboard gear and making sure that all your um, synchronization was good across all your gear, including all the outboard. In those days, we had to synchronize everything that wasn't digital.
Oh, well, right, right. Hey,
Everything, yeah, everything that was digital. Sorry.
I was going to ask you, man, what song did Bette Midler sing through the Oxford on with y'all?
Mm.
Do you know what? You
She did the
remember?
whole record. The record's called Cool Yule,
Okay.
and it's a Christmas record.
Awesome.
Yeah, she did all those songs there.
Did it on the Oxford, huh?
Yep.
Do you remember what mic she sang through or what y'all used on her?
She sang on 250. Sorry, 251.
251.
That belongs to Robbie Buchanan, who is the producer.
Oh, amazing. Is that picture he's in you sent me with him in there?
Yeah,
And
that's
you in
the
the back?
picture that I sent you where we're in the control room
Yeah,
mixing.
that's
Yeah,
him. He looks
yeah.
like a fun dude. He looks like fun.
Oh, he's excellent. A lot of those guys that are now really big time producers used to be musicians back in the day, and that's where these all got. Oh, that whole production team all knew each other from playing back as a band members and people like Whitney Houston and J Lo and stuff like that. All those
Wow.
cheesy sounds of keyboards from the 80s and stuff,
Yeah,
people like Robbie came up with.
really.
Yeah.
Wow.
A lot of those guys that came as producers for all these records, at Mix, knew Mick from having been musicians
Yeah,
years and years and years and years ago.
that's awesome, man. So they not only did they work together, they were friends.
Yeah, they came, it was always a very, almost like, family, type of environment. Everybody treated each other really well. There was never really any bad vibes, if you want to call them that, unless it was, people we really didn't know. I mean, for instance, one time, who was it that was kind of weird? Rick Ocasek was kind of weird.
Mm,
The guy from the Cars.
right.
He was kind of, he had a little bit of an attitude.
Huh.
But, whatever. The song was cool.
Right. Do you remember what song it was y'all did with him?
Oh, it didn't come out. It didn't come out. It was a demo for a band that never made it out. I have it. The song was killer. I think I sent one to you. Remember that I told you this that song with a woman that kind of sounded like James Bond.
Yeah. You did send.
And then it kind of doesn't sound so good anymore.
Right. You did send me that. Right.
Yeah.
We're in that transition. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that transition kind of killed the song a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Wow. Yeah, man. I wondered about that. It's like because you get a certain people in there, and then not only after a while they work together, whether it's using the same mastering engineer, maybe like Bob Ludwig or whoever like that. You get to use them, you become friends with them, and then it's like, oh, hey, what's up? Let's
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and also how everybody works, and what to expect, and it becomes a comfort thing.
Mm-hmm.
Why go out of your way to work with jerks?
So-
Who wants that? The money's not as sweet, especially when you're making loads of it.
Right, man. Right. Don't want any drama. Don't want the
Mm-hmm.
drama. No. Don't need that. You get to a certain point, man, it's like I don't even want to mess with that, right?
Yeah, no, these people don't want any hassle.
Mm-hmm.
The toughest part of the day was, what to order at dinner.
And that shouldn't be too tough, but sometimes it is,
Yeah,
right?
the whole day was such a pleasure, man. You get up, like when we go mastering in May for a week, we get up late whenever we wanted to. It was all paid for. We go to lunch whenever we want, get to the session. stroll in whenever we wanted to, listen to the music. Everybody's chilling. Everybody, oh yeah, you want to listen to it again? Okay. How did I do that? Okay, let me show you how I did that.
I know, isn't that beautiful, man?
That sort of vibe. There was no, like you're the assistant or anything like that. Obviously you can't be a jerk off, and I'm gonna call it that because that's how you come across when you just don't know how to do.
Mm-hmm.
You obviously have to be conscious of your environment and what you say and all those things, but
Right.
like anything else, if you're a good hang, it's gonna be an awesome day.
Oh, right.
Yeah. And as a trivia, in Portland, Maine, is the one place that, according to Bob Ludwig, makes the Eric Clapton's favorite hamburgers.
Really?
Yeah, we went there. It's called Rockies.
Rockies. That's not a nationwide thing, is it? Sounds like
Nope.
No, it's just there in Oregon. Okay.
It's one place in sorry, not Oregon, in Portland, Maine.
Portland. Okay. Wow. He loves their hamburgers, huh?
They even have a sign that says Eric Clapton's favorite burger.
Oh, wow. So what makes it so special? Did you eat there?
I didn't think it was, really amazing or anything. It was,
Okay.
it was a small little burger, a little small town burger. It was
Okay.
great. It wasn't fast food. It was really good.
Right.
But, what made him think that it was the best thing in the world? I don't
Don't
know.
I don't know. You never know those things, some things,
Yep.
But I think that's neat, all the people that you've worked with, man, in the past, and just created great relationships with, and the journey that you've been on in the studios and working with these, you know, great
So let's hope
artists,
we
and
keep it going.
hmm you know, it's really been a neat road for you to be on,
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. Going to
It,
continue, I'm hoping.
yeah, it ain't over, man. It ain't over. It's just getting started.
Yeah.
That's the way we got to look at it anyway, right?
Exactly.
We just get better, man. We just get better. Man, yeah, I appreciate you joining in tonight, Dennis. I do, man.
My pleasure, guys.
I was gonna ride it out, but if you call, man, I was like, yeah, I love it when you join in.
No. I totally said somebody asked the last minute if I could make dinner. So I was like, oh.
Well, as always, I do appreciate it. Hey, you know what, guys? For all my subscribers out there, Dennis and I, if he doesn't mind, we're going to do a live sitting and on Be Live here coming up in a few more days.
Mm-hmm.
So if you don't mind joining in with me, Dennis, we seem to have gotten the little kinks worked out.
Yeah, we'll make it work. Last time it seemed like it was working like a charm.
Man, I don't know. I tell you what, let's do, Dennis. Whatever you want to talk about, I want to give you the stage, man.
I think that we're doing it just fine. I think
we we are, but anything that you want to talk about specifically, just I guess shoot me a text. We'll talk on the phone.
Yeah, we'll talk off the air and see what we can come up with. I'm sure it'll be exciting.
I know, man. Hey, here's the thing, man. Anything that we talk about mixing or recording or being in the studio or microphones, I love. I mean, you and I both love microphones, okay? I know that. I knew that right off the bat. And you know what? If we had 100 or 200, it probably wouldn't be enough.
Oh, man. No, we just got to start booking sessions. That's it. Then we can talk about microphones and have fun at the same time. And
I know, man. So this is, I guess, what we need to do. We need to see what's going to happen with everything, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's going
to then just encourage people. If you maybe we can put a seminar together down the road.
That'd be great.
Find a place and have a session. See who will be interested in coming out. Maybe book a local band somewhere, and maybe have a competition of bands. See, have them kind of duke it out. See who can come out and show their skills in the studio.
Man, what a great idea, Dennis.
I'd love to do some Zydeco.
Hey, yeah. Hey, there's a lot of people. Zydeco music, is that what you said? Zydeco?
Yes, sir. Yeah. Oh, I've done some live sound before with Zydeco.
Oh, man.
It's a lot of fun.
Oh man, right here in New Orleans, man, you got all kind of Zydeco music going on, man.
I know. I'm sure there's some cool electric Zydeco stuff out there.
I know, and there's some. Hey, I tell you what, there's and there's some great musicians, man. Great
Hmm.
musicians. Uh, yeah. Let's see if we can't. This.
So then, hopefully, all this thing starts clearing up a little bit. We can set up something and see how we can make all this stuff work out for the listeners.
Man, wouldn't that be great?
Yeah,
And think of all the people that we can bring in that get excited just to be there and be a part of it, man.
yeah.
Wow.
Maybe even
Wow.
have some of the lucky listeners come in and be, the play the assistance parts.
Yeah, man. Why not? Why not? To be a part of it like that is a lifetime experience for a lot of people.
Hmm.
Especially just think about the people, Dennis, that you remember where you and I were 20 years ago or 25, just, liking it, but not really knowing too much about it. And then,
Sure do, yeah.
oh my gosh. And then every step of the way has just been a journey and a learning experience. So think about those people that are just now starting out who have all the tools now that you and I didn't have back in the day, you know?
Oh well, they get the they have the benefit of learning how to use these tools really well.
I know.
Because one thing is having, a toolbox full of stuff, but the other thing's not knowing how to use them.
That's right. You know what? And
Yeah,
then seeing someone use them, right?
yeah,
I mean, you got to see all that. You got to see Mick work.
yeah. It's good that you can use a 57 to hammer things, but it shouldn't mean that you should.
Right. But you got to see him work, man. Hey, and you know what? Golly, man, you learn so much from monkey see, monkey do, don't you? I know I learned a lot
Oh
that
yeah,
way.
yeah, and not just him. It was all the guys. Even I've gotten to be uh, an say like an assistant on stage under a lot of great live mixers as well.
Hmm.
So you pick up from wherever you're willing to pick up from,
Right,
and
right,
then you just kind of make your own assumptions of nothing, and then they'll become assumptions. They're actually educated guesses, and they're not even guesses anymore at that point.
right, right. Well,
Because you at least I don't like to use the same approach to everything.
hmm,
Um, but you at least you learn to form your own base points
right, right.
and be confident about it, because that's the other thing, is building that confidence to know, okay, this is what I'm going to do,
Hmm.
instead of oh, let me
Right.
post on Facebook and see what people think I should do. You
Exactly.
know, you
You
know.
it's like march to the own beat of your drum because you know what needs to be done. You know.
Right. And it also involves knowing that it's not about what you like; it's what's good for the music.
Right.
Because I've seen a lot of people that go into a project and say like, "Oh, this is how I think kicks should sound always,"
Right.
and that's a really
No.
bizarre way of thinking.
Exactly.
Because yeah, you can have a favorite way to make things sound, but not every project is the same,
Right.
and that sound's not going to work for everyone.
Hmm.
Unless I mean, I guess some people do have the wrong idea of what having a signature sound is.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. But then, you have those people out there that want to be a little different, have a little different
Oh
sound.
well,
You know
that's
what?
not what it's about.
Look,
The
I
best
heard,
sound is not to have one.
look,
You're working for somebody else.
I know. So I was listening to the radio, was it, yeah, yesterday, and the song comes on. I don't know what
Mm-hmm.
song it is. I never heard it before, but it was heavy rock music, okay? And it was this chick singing,
Mm-hmm.
and typically a lot of your rock music, the vocals are tucked underneath a little bit, to where
All
you're
right.
guessing as to what did he say, and you're singing the wrong lyrics sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, I would have thought that I was listening to a country song or something, man, because her vocals was way up front, dry, in your face. And I don't know the name.
Oh,
I heard it one time.
interesting.
Heard it just one time the other day, and I was like, interesting, because they went out, they stepped out from the norm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sometimes people do that, in a verse or going from verse to chorus. You know, it's a production thing. For many years, it wasn't. You know, in the 70s and 80s, things were swimming in effects, and now things are considered fairly dry. Though currently things are starting to be a little more free form in terms of effects. But for a long time, you know, at least all these old guys were always complaining that there were just no effects in music anymore.
Yeah, man. Listen to Journey tunes.
Yeah, stuff like that. You know, and you don't really realize how much effects there are. And even current music, even stuff today that sounds relatively dry. And if you were to listen to it on the studio and you play back and you stop the playback, just all the stuff around it would stun you how much there is.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah, it's changed the whole production part of it and how wet it is and how dry it is. But you know what? I hope that song comes back. I hope I get to hear it again because I want to find out who's doing that.
Yeah, find out what it is.
You know? Sounds great, Dennis. Well, thank you again for joining in tonight.
My pleasure. We'll do it again, man.
We'll do it again, man. For you guys out there, man, we come in at 7:00 Texas time.
Don't forget to tell our friend how much you like the Shure SM7.
Oh yeah,
right. I sure do.
Yeah. Okay, thank you for reminding me. You know, I forgot coming on. Okay, for you guys out there, man. Okay, hit that subscribe button. Okay, and then also slam that bell. Okay, and type down there as to why you love the Shure microphone, man. That'll get you in the contest. Okay, we're giving away the Shure SM7B microphone coming up soon. I keep saying that, but we will give it away. Okay, that'll get you in the contest to win this puppy, and you don't want to lose out.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right, Randy, stay safe, and we'll see everybody again real soon.
Yeah, buddy. Okay, I'll holler at you later. Okay.
All right, man.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.